Today, we're going to be talking about analyzing patterns from data and graphs. Now, in this world, we are constantly having data thrown at us, all kinds of information. And sometimes it's very hard to see what that data is useful for. So what we want to be able to do is organize that data, maybe see some patterns from that data, and then it's far more useful and important to us. So let's take a look. All right. So how do you organize this data? Let's say you're on a baseball team and you've got all these batting averages and you want to know who to put in what order of the batting order. Well, you've got all this information in your scorebook. You want to organize that data some way. There are a lot of ways to do that. First is maybe you want to make a list. All right? Maybe you want to take that and make a table instead, and we'll be showing you that later on today. And then take that table, that information in the table, very often it is graphable. Maybe you want to do all three. And there are benefits and some minuses to each one of those methods. Now, we're not going to go into all those methods today, but there are other videos for that as well. Maybe there's something else beyond these three. We won't be talking about that today either, but let's take a quick look at data and tables, okay? Because when your data is neat and organized, you're more likely to be able to see, analyze patterns, which is going to enable you to make predictions and make decisions based on that information. Because that's why data is so important, and what you hear about all the time now in business is data, data, data. All right? How do we take all this information we have and make it useful, make it powerful, make it valuable? And if you can do this, this is a very essential skill for you in life, and you'll be very valuable to an employer if you're actually able to analyze data. All right, so let's take a look. So I like to eat ice cream. I eat a lot of ice cream. All right, and I kept track of how much ice cream I ate each week and how much weight I gained, which is fairly considerable when you like ice cream. So for week 1, I ate 2 pints of Graeter's ice cream. I gained 1 pound. For week 2, I ate 3 pints of ice cream. I gained 1.5 pounds. For week 3, 5 pints, 2.5 pounds. Week 4, 8 pints, 4 pounds. You can see a trend happening here. I'd hate to see what I'm going to eat in week 5. Now, a couple things I want to point out. Data is not always going to be this obvious. It's not always going to be this easy to see. Many of you probably already see the pattern. It's not always going to be that way. And this is a very small set of data. Very often your data can be hundreds, thousands, millions of pieces of data. And of course, at that point, you're going to be using computers to do this analysis, but not computers necessarily to make the decisions and predictions. All right, so what I can do is a couple things here. I can make this table. And all I did was a 2-column table. I've got my pints. I've got my pounds. The pints is the independent variable. You may have heard that term before. We're not going to go into a lot of detail about what that is today. You can check my wiki for videos on independent variables. And this is dependent. The amount of weight I gained is dependent on the amount of ice cream I eat, which should make sense. Now, this is, again, a very simplistic example, because there's lots of things that affect weight gain, but we're just going to talk about how much ice cream I eat to how much weight I gain. Then I can make a very simple graph. You'll notice that my axes are labeled, my numbers are consistent, I have a consistent range for my axes, and I've labeled my points. And as you can see, this is a fairly simple linear pattern. All right? And once I have this, I can look out on this graph and say, oh, if I eat 10 or 12 pints of ice cream, once I draw this line, I'll be able to see, based on what's happened in the past, how many pounds I'm going to gain. So again, you can see how powerful and easy this is once you put something in a table or graph. Again, it's not always going to be this simple. And in fact, you're not often always going to get a line. You can get very inconsistent information, which may or may not show a pattern. So you want to be careful when making these graphs that you don't make too many assumptions, and then if there are graphs that are not linear, you may have to change some of the assumptions, some of the decisions you're going to make. That's it. That's how you can quickly organize, make a table, make a graph.